So, Ultra Sun and Moon have been announced. A vocal minority, at least based on ratings, are upset that these games are being released instead of Gen 4 remakes. The thing is, the move actually makes a lot of sense. Let's take a closer look. There are two scenarios where a generation add-on was released within the same generation of remakes. Set 1 is Gen 3, Pokemon Emerald version with Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. Set 2 is Gen 4, Pokemon Platinum version with Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver. In the first case, Game Freak and Nintendo decided to develop the Gen 1 remakes prior to Emerald version. This call is likely due to difficulties surrounding compatibility between the Game Boy games and the Game Boy Advance games. While a time capsule could be used to send Pokemon from the first generation to the second, first and second generation games could not send Pokemon to the third generation games. To make it easier for established fans to receive Pokemon from the first generation games, the remakes made sense. Furthermore, this created the opportunity for new fans to flock to the series, but make the games look more modern. In the second case, Game Freak decided, for whatever reason, to complete Platinum version prior to the second generation remakes, perhaps hoping to improve sales of the title. The sales were marginally better, but still, the sales increase was nothing drastic. Platinum looks as if it sold better than Emerald version overall, but it should be noted that Pearl and Diamond sold about 9% more units than Ruby and Sapphire. So Platinum did not necessarily sell 20% more units than Emerald. When Pearl and Diamond's market success is taken into account, the advantage is closer to Platinum selling approximately 4% better than Emerald. Upon Heart Gold and Soul Silver's release, one may expect the games to sell worse than Fire Red and Leaf Green, for Generation 1 was far more successful revenue-wise than Generation 2. That isn't the case. The Gen 2 remake sold about 6% more units. Keep in mind that most original buyers of Pokemon likely stopped playing Pokemon, or Nintendo's handheld systems in general. So Pokemon's initial commercial success is more of a result of it being new, rather than it just being the most popular generation. Next up are the third generation remakes, Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, which continued the trend of improved market sales. The Gen 3 remakes sold about 8% more units than Gen 2 remakes. Again, keep in mind that Ruby and Sapphire sold about 70% of the units that Gold and Silver did. This is particularly impressive. That is 85% rounded up of the units Ruby and Sapphire sold, and 85% rounded down of the units X and Y sold. Why is this important? Well, Black and White 2 sold 54% of the units that Black and White sold. The numbers speak. Remakes of previous generations sell more units than add-ons or sequels of current generational games. So, why does it make more sense to release Ultra Sun and Moon instead of jumping to the Gen 4 remakes? Simple, really. There is nothing pressing Game Freak to force out such remakes. Pearl and Diamond were released on the Nintendo DS. The compatibility issues from the first two generations are absent. Even Gen 3, which can transfer Pokemon forward in generations, has a more time-consuming method to do so. Pearl and Diamond are free of these issues to a large extent. Why? Because the DS and the 3DS cartridges can be inserted into a 3DS handheld device. Thus, you can utilize Pokemon Transfer and Pokebank for moving Pokemon forward in any generation from 4 to the present games. It also makes a lot more sense to return to the unanswered aspects of the Alola region sooner versus later. How is Lily doing with her mother? What is the role of Necrozma? How do you stop the Ultra Beast from attacking the region? What changes occur as a result of Sun and Moon? What becomes of the protagonist, the current champion of Alola? How would they even handle that now that you can customize your own character's design? If there are knots to tie, they should be handled before new games are developed. Not to mention, it requires less time to rework assets from the existing region in the Gen 7 engine than it is to create Sinnoh in that same engine. The Pokemon models already exist, minus any additions they choose to handle. But be real for a sec. Who honestly believed that Game Freak was going to be releasing Gen 4 remakes a year after Sun and Moon? I would honestly be concerned about the quality of such a game. To those looking forward to Gen 4 remakes, don't worry. Remakes of the previous generation sell enough copies to keep Game Freak interested in that practice. Just be patient, and with any luck, Ultra Sun and Moon will be closer to what Black and White 2 were, and less like the add-ons. You know, we can hope. Well, that's my spiel. If you have any other thoughts that you'd like to share on Ultra Sun and Moon, feel free to leave them below. And until the next video, stay cool, my noobs.